begin.
Okay.
And welcome to the Choosing Doctoral Program conference call. Today's conference is being recorded. Also, today's call will be interactive, and all lines will be open for the duration. We ask that you use a mute button when not speaking to cut down on background noise. If you need to step away from today's call, please do not place your line on hold, as doing so may feed music into the entire conference. And at this time, I would like to turn the conference over to Diane Billings. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thanks, and welcome to everybody. Gosh, this is fun to be back with this special program that we're offering for the master's students. And because we're a small group, we've decided to just leave the line open. And I'm here with Teresa Dusage, who is a doctoral candidate. You notice that very important C after her PhD there. And she's, most of you probably know her, but she is studying the doctoral program at Rutgers. And they also have Latoya Rollins, whom many of you know because she was a scholar in the program. And she is an EMP program at, I guess now we say Rutgers, but the NJNI part of Rutgers. So I'm really thrilled to have them with us. And I think we can, because the lines are open, I'd love to just go around and call on everybody and, say hi to us and tell us what you're doing these days. And so I'll start with Erin. So, hi, Erin, how are you doing? We should have their line open, is that right? Erin? So,
yeah, your mute button. We have your line open on our end.
Okay, we're waiting on Erin. Marla, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Billings. How are you?
I'm very well. So, what are you doing these days? Where are you? And thanks for coming.
I'm still teaching an associate degree RN program at Cumberland County College full time. I'm enrolled in a DNP program at Wilmington University. Got my first course this week.
Okay.
And still practicing clinically as a nurse practitioner at Virtua.
Not busy. Wilmington, is that what I did say? That's Delaware?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And is that at the University of Delaware then?
No, Wilmington University.
Wilmington, okay, I'm sorry. Well, okay. Well, I'm not familiar with that, but now I am. Okay. Well, welcome, and we're glad to know that you're enrolled. And so part of what you're out of the session is the strategies, because Teresa and Latoya have stories to tell. Okay, and Renee, how are you?
Good, Diane.
I'm doing really well. So what's going on with you?
I teach full-time at Rutgers. I practice clinically at JFK Hospital. I do hospice and palliative care. I'm finishing up my first DNP course as well.
All right. Well, congratulations. Back up there at the end and see if she's near the phone and can say hi to us. Okay. There's a slide I skipped over, but because I think if we have this quiet environment and we don't have just stays close to them, I think we're going to be okay. So we'll leave them open so we can have a little chat. But here's kind of the agenda for tonight. But mainly this is about you guys. Your friend.
Okay, no, this is Karan. It seems like a small group, and I don't know if there are more than 3 of us, but I'm also online and watching this, the presentation also.
Okay, and Karen, who do we have? Who are you?
Have Karan Branch, and I am at Rutgers, UMD&J Rutgers, and I am the last semester of the M program, FNP program, and I'm in the pediatric rotation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Are you Prince Prophet Online? Is that your
That actually is my son. He's more computer savvy than I am.
Oh, okay.
So I think he has his name on the computer.
Okay. Well,
yes.
Don't love these kids.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, now I know who it is. So welcome, Karan. I'm glad that you're able to join us. Okay. And I'll kind of try to keep an eye on anybody else that comes in. But anyway, we're going to leave the lines open as long as we're quiet. So what we're going to talk about today is, why the doctoral education, and talk a little bit about DMP versus PhD. But it sounds like most of you have already made a decision and make the choice. And then maybe this is more important to you, is about the survival strategies and how to obtain the resources. And Teresa and Latoya are here to help me, because they are living it right now. So if we were to start and say, where do you think you're going to be in the next 5 years, take a minute to think about that, and I'll just ask you to say, what are you envisioning? And maybe the question now to say, how will having a doctoral degree help you get there? So just take a minute to think about that, and then I'll best if I call on people so that we don't all talk at once. So I'm going to start with you, since you're already thinking of the future. What do you hope to be doing in 5 years after you finish your DMP?
No.
First things first, yes.
I love to teach. I plan to continue teaching and being in education, and I also like to practice clinically. So I don't think that will change. I plan to continue to do both of those things. However, there are talks of offering a 4-year bachelor's degree in nursing at Cumberland County College, and I'm hoping that with DMP that I'll be able to fit in nicely with that division at Cumberland County College.
Okay.
If it takes place.
Yeah. Well, just in that was getting positioned for being able to teach in the same job. That's one thing that a doctoral degree will do for you. So, on the right track with thinking about that, and how nice if it worked out that you could step into a position where you already know the players and so on. So, Renee, what are you thinking about in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I want to continue on the faculty practice plan as well, where I have my practice and I am also full-time faculty. I want to push myself in a better place to stay on that plan.
Okay.
Have my contracts renewed and all those types of things.
In that double degree makes those contracts much easier. And if you'd be appointed to a clinical tenure track where the appointments are much longer, so much the better for sure. And how nice that you can combine both your teaching and your clinical practice. That's great. Okay, and then let's see. So, about to finish up your master's program. What are you thinking about for the future?
I'd like to explore the education field and definitely keep my hands in the clinical practice somewhere, maybe a clinic or a private MD's office. I was considering the DMP program. I'm really interested to find out how to do it, at the same time.
Okay.
But I'd be exploring a new position in education and perhaps a clinical area, and then to fit in a DMP program, I'd like to know how that can be done.
We're going to head over to Latoya in just a few minutes, because she's the one that's in the DMP, and Latoya, I'm going to call on you. Did you sit out for a year before you went back to school?
Yes, for a year. My first year of teaching. I completed a year of teaching and then went back to school.
Okay.
So I did a year of the program already.
Okay. So, Karan, there's some merit, and quite a few of the scholars, did kind of get their feet on the ground with whatever they were going to do next, and then came back to school. So I'll ask if Erin is there with us yet. Then
I'm here.
Erin, hey, it's Diane. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. I am teaching full-time at Fairleigh Dickinson right now. I'm in a full-time position, so it's a yearly contract. So I am planning to decide which doctoral degree I would like. Right now I'm leaning towards a PhD with the goal of obtaining a tenure track teaching position.
And we're going to we'll give some tips here so that you can help make a wise decision. So,
great.
And welcome to the program. So here's some ideas of reasons why people want to get a degree, why we do. I think I want to say, too, you guys we've talked about the Future of Nursing report many times in our collaborative learning community, and you know that we want to double the number of doctoral nurses. So that's a direction right off the bat. And then maybe we talked about the positions that you really want require to have a doctoral degree. I always called it an insurance policy that you're going to be much better positioned for an ideal job. You're going to be on a contract that's not year to year. You'll have a little more stability. And I think those are some good reasons. And then those of you that are wanting to teach, if you're wanting to teach in a baccalaureate degree or even use your practitioner skills and work with practitioner level students, you're going to need to have that doctoral degree. And if some that are working now, I know at Indiana University, our dean has said to all the faculty, you must have a doctoral degree. And, that kind of pushes everybody to do it. And if they aren't wanting to, then they've sought employment elsewhere. So I think now some of the employers are coming down a little on this. And some of you have clinical reasons, too. Do you want to be more clinically prepared? So lots of good reasons, and we've kind of heard from you. But I'd love to hear from LaToya and Teresa, and I can tell you why I went back, too. So LaToya, tell us, what made you decide to come back and get a doctoral degree?
I always wanted a doctoral degree. The reason why I went back to is because I was hired into a tenure track position at Doctoral College. So required to obtain my doctoral degree in 5 years. I've completed first year. This is my second year. I have 3 more years to go. The DNP the completion of the program would take a shorter time than the PhD, so I decided that I would go that track than that.
Yeah, great. And Teresa, what made you decide to come back to school?
Did I want the insurance policy, but I set a personal goal to one day become a leader in the academic setting, whether it was through, becoming a chair or a dean in nursing education. And I truly felt that the PhD would help me achieve this goal. I also wanted to develop a program of research in simulation and nursing education in particular, and believed that the PhD will help me get funding and help me meet my goals to develop this particular program of research. Currently at Monmouth, our faculty union was debating on whether to decide if DNPs and PhDs can both hold tenure positions. And they actually took the stand that both of them are considered doctoral degrees and terminal degrees in nursing. And so we have now both DNPs and PhD faculty who can secure a tenure track line, which is not the case across the board, but at this particular university it was. So that's
yeah, okay, and I think that's an important point for when you're considering whether a DNP or a PhD, and that's the reason we did that first slide with the crystal ball. It really helps to know what you want to do so that you're making a decision that you are definitely efficient. And I think the schools of nursing that are employing faculty understand better now what a DNP is all about and how a DNP faculty can contribute to the school in a tenure track position. And I don't know if you guys remember, we have had sessions about, the model of the 3 areas of excellence. One is certainly research, and that's what Lisa has talked to us about. And then there's, teaching, which and those of you that are really wanting to be excellent teachers. But there's that third category, which is service. And that may be the one place where the DMP excellence, they bring excellence to the program, and they, bring a different viewpoint for the clinical teaching and, using evidence and helping us understand evidence better. So hoping that the good news that the wisdom that Mom have had, that other schools will have that too. But again, I think it's a really good idea for you to be thinking about what you want to do and and we're going to talk about the difference between DMP and PhD. So we want to be sure that you're kind of thinking about that. And then went back to school. I years and years ago, but every time I went for my annual review, my department would say, "Are you going back for your doctoral degree?" And I would always say, "No way, no way." And then there was a position opportunity that to be the curriculum coordinator, and that required having a doctoral degree. And then all of a sudden, the light bulb went on. That message, "Going back? Are you going back?" That next time I needed to tell her, otherwise my opportunities for the future are going to be limited. So that's usually what drew me. So after years of resistance, then but of course now I'm, look back, I'm really, really glad that I did do that. Okay, so just a quick comment on some types of doctoral degrees. I imagine this is all pretty much to everybody, but you want to be clear about what degree you want and what degree you're getting. Okay, so we have the PhD, and this is the science degree. The whole purpose of a PhD program is advancing the science, developing knowledge, those kinds of things. We'll talk about it in a minute. And you can have a PhD in nursing, where the major focus is nursing, and that would be Rutgers and Seton Hall in New Jersey. The two examples there. But then we also have schools that have PhDs in nursing education, and there's one Connecticut for sure that that's it's a PhD with nursing education focus. At IU, I should track. That's where I have teaching experience. That's a track, a focus area in the doctoral program where people can do research about nursing education. And of course, we can have PhDs in sociology and lots of other disciplines. Now, I think there's enough of them in nursing, and most states have a PhD program, so those are available. Then, of course, we have the DMP program, which that's the Doctor of Nursing Practice, and that is a practice-focused degree. Well, you'll see this in the chart that comes up soon here, and there the focus is on using evidence, generating the evidence and disseminating practice-based practices and practice-based evidence. So there's been in the last 5 years a whole proliferation of Doctor of Nursing Practice, and now that we have enough of graduates from these programs, and they are doing very interesting things both in the service area and in schools of nursing, that we are I think why schools like Monmouth have come to the conclusion that they can meet the tenure track requirements. And then we have another degree that's called an EDD, and this is a doctorate in education. We have a PhD in education, from schools of ed, and then we have the EDD that's the press doctorate in schools of education. That's the degree I have. My degree is from Indiana University and from the School of Education. But I always wanted to teach, and that just seemed to be the place for me to do that. But now, seeing even some schools of nursing that are offering the EDD, they have partnered with the School of Education, and this is now seeing 3 or 4 schools this degree. I think Kane, you guys knows more about that. I think they are have on their drawing board. Or does anybody know what degree is? If that's going to be I know they're working with the school on the degree.
I think it's I know we're looking for someone, at least a faculty opening, for someone to direct a PhD in nursing education, but I didn't know anything about the EDD program.
Okay, maybe it isn't a PhD in nursing. One time my information is more than a year old, but anyway, so that's going to be another possibility in New Jersey. So you guys can keep your eye open for that. And then that we have, the Doctor of Nursing Science, and that there's still a few of those programs around, but that's like a DNP. It's a practice doctorate. So then let's talk about, should we get the nursing degree or should we get it in another discipline? And there's pros and cons, but it sounds to me like everybody's pretty clear on going into a nursing program. So nursing programs require it. It's building on master's and degrees or BSN, because you have BSN to PhD programs. But I do think nursing is probably the anchor for recommend. But on the other hand, I have colleagues and friends that have degrees like in sociology or psychology or neuroscience or any number of other kinds of doctoral programs and other disciplines. And we're talking about interprofessional work, and we're not so insular anymore. So I think it's wrong if you really had a good compelling reason to study outside of a nursing program. But I didn't guess that anybody's really thinking in action, but just to help broaden your ideas here. And then just a little bit more of the DNP versus the PhD. We call them, NJNI calls them, research-focused degrees and practice-focused degrees. So there are two main differences between the degrees. And here I think I have this table. You'll have to get your magnifying glass out, but you could read this. And this came from Johns Hopkins. And if you want to many schools of nursing that both a DNP and a PhD at the same school, you will see grids like this where it's talking about the difference. But I think it all boils down to search versus the practice. One little piece of information is the project or capstone piece is. For a doctoral degree, it's original research and a dissertation, more or less. Some schools now are just having you write an article, a paper that could be published, kind of boil down what would be in a dissertation. But then in the DNP, it's a practice-oriented project where the focus is to synthesize lots of things, the evidence, do an evidence-based paper and pull all that together, and then do systems level kinds of. So I'll just stop there, and I think I'll ask now for questions, and then I'm going to ask Toya and to talk about what they're doing or for their final project or where they're thinking. So questions from anybody? We've got through some of these issues here. Marla, you have your hand up, so
yes,
should I call on you? Yeah, okay.
It's not a question, but I just wanted to say there, as far as a terminal degree in nursing, there is also the DRNP, which is Doctor of Nursing Practice and Nursing Science, I believe is what it's called, which is like a hybrid between the DNP and the PhD. And I think the only school to offer it in the U.S. is Drexel in Philadelphia. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I've also noticed that some schools, if you have a DNP, you can take a few more courses and then get the PhD. So there's a possibility, too. And I guess if something isn't working out for those that if you have a DNP and you want to move on to prepared to do research, if something strikes your fancy that you need more research, then that often is an option too, and schools have those kind of little top-off type of programs. yeah, the hybrid concept, I think that's there. And many schools, the two programs share courses. When there's a school that offers both, lots of the evidence science type courses they're across. So Marilyn, thank you for letting us know about that. And Drexel, I think they're online, and that would be an option for you all to think about. Okay, let's have a question. I'm going to go back here because I want.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second? I raised my hand, but I wanted to know, I've been thinking a lot about that DMP to PhD bridge.
Yes.
And I was talking to Bill Holzmer about it last week, actually. And I was just wondering how long that you thought that would take. What does it look like a little bit more? Because I heard that more and more are going to be popping up.
Yeah. Would say 4 courses, 12 credits, like a postmaster's, some kind of post-DMP option. Okay. I don't think it's going to be owned, and I don't know if I think it's more about the courses that help you do research. Then, certainly it's not going to have all your other support courses underneath all of that. I don't know if there's going to be a requirement to do then original research, to wrap it up. Mm-hmm. That's a good question, and I would, continue to explore it. Another thought: if you know for sure you want to do research, probably think, clearly about going into a PhD program, and then you are on track. But nothing's really closed at the end. We have postdocs, and I think one of the scholars is doing a postdoctoral research project. So, if you need more work, then more courses under there. That works. Okay, was that Renee?
Thank you. Yes, it was. Thank you.
Yeah, Renee and Marlon, put your hands down.
I just had one more comment.
Okay.
The DRNP is not a bridge DNP to the PhD. It is a terminal degree.
Oh, okay. So the best of both?
Yes.
Okay.
All
right. Thanks. Have you looking into that?
I did look into it a little bit.
All righty. Okay. So let me call on Latoya and Teresa to tell about what their project is. And Latoya, I think we're kind of still in the thinking stages of what a practice-oriented project would mean for you.
Yeah, still into that stage. I know that I want to do something with different curriculum models, particularly the concept-based is what I'm interested in. And I'm looking at designing some kind of concept-based teaching model for the clinical setting, like clinically based, concept-based learning activities, and design my clinicals around that instead of in the actual classroom. I think it'll be a lot easier, and I have more control of the clinical since I'm the lead instructor for the course.
Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. And if you choose to connect the theory to your classroom theory to your clinical practice easier, I would think, because your oxygenation, everybody has oxygenation needs, and the students can see that concept with the patient. Anyway, okay, and so Teresa, you're almost at the end here. What you doing for your final?
So, interest lied within high-fidelity human patient simulation. So I did a randomized controlled trial evaluating student learning outcomes following a simulation session. So one group had video-assisted debriefing, and the other control group had oral-assisted debriefing. And so I was looking at different learning outcomes to see which group did better or if they did the same. And I looked at learning outcomes of clinical judgment, learner satisfaction with the debriefer, learner satisfaction with the simulation, and self-confidence. And so out of the 4 variables, the video-assisted debriefing group actually had higher mean scores everything but self-confidence. And clinical judgment was actually evaluated longitudinally over 3 different intervals of time. So I think we'll have some meaning and some really evidence of the use of video during the entire simulation process.
Great. And you're almost finished this, and
almost finished. Just revising the last 2 chapters. I can't wait.
Well, we're going to hear and see fireworks coming out of New Jersey when you're done.
Yeah.
It's a big moment here. Okay, so some think about when making the big decision, and really it is a decision that needs to be made thoughtfully as best you can with the information that you have now. But here's a whole bunch of things that generally students take a look at. I'm kind of run down a little bit, but certainly entrance requirements, and I know people sometimes use that based on what they have to do to get in. And one thing that we used to have that was a barrier to a lot of people was the take graduate record exam, and either people have taken their master's program and it moves forward, and that's easy, and then I think many schools now don't require that so much. But then probably the thing that most should be on your mind is meeting your needs, and that's why taking that first step of even sitting down and writing out what you want to do, where you're going to be in 5 years. Do you want to be doing research? Do you want to be teaching at a research-intensive school of nursing where having that PhD is going to be important? Or do you like blending your practice? And most of you who were master's, many of you are FMPs or nurse practitioners, so it seems like it's logical to go along that path. So the thing is, some schools require full-time study. I don't know that that's particularly the case in New Jersey. It sounds like it's not, but and you go full-time if you can. So much the better, because then you can just truck right through and get it done. But that's luxury. Okay, for some people, the tuition is a consideration, and certainly the doctoral programs in New Jersey and in your surrounding areas, they have varying tuition and so on. And then these other kinds of things, that are the support systems that need to be in place. And is your family, going to be okay with? Are you in a good place with the family and everybody's situated well that they can survive? Otherwise, you certainly can ask about, what's advising, and you, at least in the PhD programs, with somebody who can be a research advisor for you, the topic that you want to study. And Teresa talked to us a little bit about that, but that was a deciding factor, I think, for her. For sure, I want to ask about the graduation rate, and that's a big thing nationally now, more maybe for the undergrads, but how long does a typical person take to get through the program? And now we're really trying to streamline how this works, and we'd like the students to come in, talking probably more here about the PhD, I'm sure it pertains to the DNP. We want the students to know what they want to do and get right on it, make every single course that they're taking count, build toward the final project. And in curricula, I've seen some really nice ways that students can go through. A friend of mine is a colleague of mine is in a DNP program, and every single course she has, she is working on some aspect of her final project. She's doing it on relations in the neonatal with newborns, and training nurse assistants to do some skill that I've forgotten what it is. But anyway, every course she's written a piece of that paper, so it's all building. So she's going to graduate on time, and everything's. She's been in a cohort and it's just marched right along for her. So, I've heard many of you say, you're really wanting something that will move quickly for you, and, the number of credits and some of that. And, again, those entrance requirements, I'll go back to that. Sometimes having, how many of your previous credits will, count going forward. Class size, if there's 100 students and you have a lot of attention from a faculty member, that's a factor. And then, if there's just 5 students going through the program, that's not much fun either. So something that's, you're going to have a nice class, because you guys already know from being in school recently how important it is to, have colleagues that will help be going with. And then for some people, being able to teaching or research assistantships, this pays some money, and it gives you a chance then to work with a researcher or a teacher. So that would be something to think about. So let me let's see what's upcoming here. Here, follow the script. Right. Okay, and another factor, big factor to think about, is it going to be online or in the classroom? And, many people are choosing doctorals because of the convenience. They're online, and it's safe travel time and so on. And if they are really well designed, there's some pluses there. That there's opportunities for interaction with other students. But then, on the other hand, being in a classroom is nice to have interaction with your mates, and some people just don't being online. Actually, my a niece, kind of a marriage or a remote niece, we'll call her. She enrolled in an online doctoral program last year. We spent a lot of time helping her try to figure out what she wanted to do. She had 2 or 3 online courses, and she just didn't like it, and she ended up transferring or into school that was closer to her home, but didn't always have what she wanted, but she was going to at least be able to participate in class and know that she was going to be a better student. So you have to know yourself and know how you learn, and kind of make some of those decisions. And quite frankly, all these decisions, you see what a big pot we have that we're making decisions from. Some of them are just trade-offs. So maybe you have a fast program and a good match with somebody who can help you do what you're interested in studying, but they're miles away, and you do need to take it online. So these are some things to think about. And then a big thing to think about is the quality of the program. This is really essential, because now we have so many programs that are out there. Many of them are for-profits, and we have to be careful that they're just not there making money and cranking out doctoral degrees left and right. So we want to be sure that they're quality. I'm not dinging high-quality for-profit schools, but we have those, and they're meeting the same standards as our honest and high-quality doctoral programs are more based on campus. So you want to make sure they're accredited, and we have the accrediting agencies for nursing, and then it's the regional accreditation too. And with that accreditation, I would look to be sure that it's for the DMPs. AACN right now is the primary group that does accreditation. The American Association of Colleges of Nursing, AACN. Most of you are familiar with them. They have the DMP program. And it does, and we'll be doing more of it because they've changed their accreditation model. But those are the 2 main nursing programs, DMP accrediting agencies. So I would be sure that these are any programs you're considering a DMP program have accreditation from AACN. Now the PhD program is in the graduate school at your programs and at schools, and their accreditation comes from the accreditation for the entire university, and generally that's regional. Here in we're part of I've already forgotten, but it's the regional accrediting agency that ensures that we have good programs. So one quality check right there. And the other thing is, who are the faculty? And do they match with your goals? And one thing I would look at, because the DMP programs are still relatively new, do we have faculty in those DMP programs that are DMP people, and are they working or have connections or know the role of the DMP enough to be working in the school. And we're still in transition, so we can give a little break to that. But generally speaking, you want somebody who's going to be a role model and help you assume the role that you're aspiring to when you're going to a doctoral program. So you want it as the match. The same with, in a PhD program, do they have somebody who can help you with your research? And Teresa's going to, when I stop, let her have a chance, she'll talk about that. And then what are their qualifications for the DMPs themselves? Do they have a practice that they are doing? Are they doing the kinds of things that the DMP program is preparing you to do? And the same with, the doctoral the people that are PhD programs, and what are their programs of research? Are they publishing, and are they doing good things? So it's ask about all of that. And then to know, does the school have resources in it for the DMP if you're going to be doing some kind of clinical access? My friend that's doing the neonatal work and program, everybody had to, add an application, say what they were going to do their project. So that's day one. They knew, and that they had to be able to more or less commit that they had located someplace that would help them do something, for their project. And so my friend had to have a lot of support from the neonatal hospital in town that was going to, provide access to their facilities to, do the simulation and testing of this and make the staff available. And if you're doing some interesting research like Teresa's doing the simulation, you would sure want to know that they had high fidelity mannequins that you could be doing research with. So, that's all pretty important. And again, we talked about the size and who are going to be your classmates, and are they, serious students and people that you can learn from, because we know that learning is, powerful. And then here again, these graduation rates are really important. I think there's the schools are going to be more forthcoming posting that, and there may even be a federal law coming down the pipe here that they have to post this. So if it's taking people, 60 years to finish, not helpful to you, because generally speaking, most students want to get in and out as fast as they can. If graduation rates are dependent on, are the courses offered frequently enough? Is there somebody there to help the students? Is the curriculum organized well enough that the courses are building on each other and that the students aren't getting to the end and then changing their mind and having it more or less start all over? So, that's a key question I would be sure to ask if you are, making decisions. And then ask, what are the students doing? And if you're interested in having a tenure track appointment, you could say, at a DMP program, are your graduates getting positions that are in a tenure line? So these are, really important questions, and we're going to talk about, finding out this information, how to find out. But I would make a list and make it more than this. So let's have Lloyd and Teresa talk for a few minutes, and what factored their decisions, and then we'll break again here for questions. So I have questions ready about what factors came to the top when you were considering what you were going to do. So, what made you decide to go to DMP and to do it at Rutgers?
Okay, the reason why I chose the UMJ Rutgers program was because of the design of their curriculum. They have what we call the executive model, where they meet one weekend a month, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and the rest of the time we meet online. So it allowed me to still work full-time, complete my courses full-time, and finish time. The other thing that I looked at was the tuition. Since it's a state university, the tuition is a lot lower than private institutions, so that was a factor for me. All the faculty educational advancement from Robert Wood Johnson that allowed me to pay for tuition when I'm in school because my job does not offer tuition reimbursement. So I wanted to take advantage of that before the time ran out.
Oh, good idea. Okay. And anything to find out, how do you know that the executive program, what was that design like, and how did you find that out?
I went online. I looked at a couple. Actually, Teresa helped me with this because I know I called her and we had a couple of discussions about different programs and different schools that she knew about and different programs. So I did a lot of my research online. I checked the Rutgers website, the UMD website. I think I was looking at one point. I was even looking at schools in Philadelphia at one point. So I had to think of the commute. That I have my girls, so I couldn't be too far. And that's how I found out about the executive model that UMD had for their program.
Okay, so information gathering there at the beginning sounds like
a lot.
Down. Okay, and Teresa, what were some of the factors that guided your decision?
Well, in my search, I would call, deans and directors or chairs of the program just to see, what kind of program it was. Any of them were online, some face-to-face, some hybrid. I looked at everything. And one of the sort of common themes among all of my conversations, and even looking at EDD programs and PhD programs, they all said find a mentor whose program of research will align with your interests. So I was looking for a mentor who had some interest in simulation. And Dr. Wendy Nearing at Rutgers, who's now gone, but she was a leader in simulation not only at Rutgers but throughout the state of New Jersey. So I try and stay local within this tri-state area for family reasons. And I like the idea of an online program or a hybrid program because that would allow me to be flexible with, travel and commuting to a distant location. It ended up being, it was not that far for me. And I really wanted to find a mentor or somebody who would be on my dissertation committee in the long run who would allow me to pursue my interest in nursing education. And through Dr. Nearing's texts and articles and other things that I read, she really helped me open my eyes to new things like gaming and virtual reality and things besides simulation that I probably wouldn't have even looked at the literature for. And since then I found a couple of other mentors at Rutgers who were up-and-coming simulation experts. And so when Dr. Nearing left, then I had taken on Dr. Marianne Scalavino as my chair, and she has been wonderful and has supported my research efforts like anybody else. So it really has been I think that was the best piece of advice, to find that mentor who can help me and understand the research process and really get into the literature of simulation.
Okay. And I have to say, I was making my decision some time ago. We didn't have online, and I didn't want to do doctoral nursing, and we did have a doctoral. We had a master's program. Actually, we didn't even have a PhD program at IU, and sometimes they didn't want the faculty who were teaching there to, be in the program. We had some rules about that, but I knew I wanted to do something in education, and that program was down in Bloomington, which is about an hour and a half from Indianapolis, and so I kind of got along those lines. But then we did kind of pick minors and made focus areas and so on. And I'll have to say a big part of my decisions were guided by practicality. One was how many of my credits would transfer into the program. I wanted them to take all of my master's courses and, get as many credits as I could. So that was kind of a bargaining chip. And then there was one minor a series of courses that I could take up in Indianapolis. And so I took that, probably not with a good consideration of what it was the focus on adult education, which was well, but that becomes a convenience. So I'm not sure that I made all the decisions. We never really talked about having mentors, and then just kind of going through the program. One course came in other, and then finally I just kind of landed, with somebody who could help me do the research that I ended up doing ultimately, which had to do with distance ed. But I think you all have now, we have much better mentoring and, conversations like we're having tonight that can help you look at the decision. And too, was influenced by finances. I was working and full-time, didn't want to leave my job and was place-bound with the family. And the school gave faculty 50% tuition discount. So it was, kind of a driving force to be sure that I, stayed going to IU because that's where I could get the tuition. Okay, so you can see that we have all have our own personal reasons, but the more that you can, really have your mind open at the beginning and then kind of narrow it in and have some goals. So I think you've heard all, talk about, we have goals, we kind of try to make things fit for ourselves. So, now let me stop. I'm going to go back here before we get down this path. So what questions do you guys have about, what to consider? And with those that are already enrolled, what guided your decisions? So I'm going to raise your hand. I can call on you, or otherwise just type right up. Anybody have something they want to tell us about a driving factor that made you go one direction or another? Okay, looks like okay, go ahead.
I guess is similar to yours. Convenience, transfer credits. They took a lot of my credits, so almost like 20% of the program I was able to transfer in. That was huge for me.
Yeah.
And the same thing. I'm in the UMD and J. Rutgers program too, so I like the executive model. Also, 2 other scholars are in my cohort, so there's 3 of us.
Okay.
And, it's kind of wonderful having that camaraderie. And
yes. Well,
it has some support.
Yeah.
There's 3 of us from different years.
Yeah, because that's was an outcome we were striving for in the CLC, that people, the guys could do some networking and be support for now and even after you graduate. So it was from your degree. Okay. Anybody else want to add into the discussion about how to consider? You have a long list there, and those of you that are still making your decision, looks like maybe there's more 2 of you, and then we're going to archive this and send it out to others who may be more of a decision than others. But for sure, take a look at that list and have it before you commit. Okay, so how do you go about doing this? And I think we've probably talked about this. Going to the website. Everybody's sounded like they've done that. And, I find them very helpful, too. Most of them, their curriculum up there. Some even have course descriptions out there for you, so you can kind of see what the course is like. For sure, the program plan is there for just about every program that I've ever tried to look at. And then most schools have an open house, and many of them do kind of a virtual open house where, they have times and you can log in and maybe there's a webinar or something like that. It sounded like some of you took advantage of it. Those of you that are, still in the thinking stages, I would go to as many of those as you can and ask as many questions, during the time as you possibly can. Dealing with people who've graduated or in the school in the program now, you guys have an advantage of knowing each other from the collaborative learning community, and now that there's so many of you that are enrolled in a variety of places, this is exciting that there's a whole different schools that people are going to that you can network with. And then, meet the faculty, be sure that you know who's there and if they fit. Teresa gave us a good example of trying to find somebody that was doing simulation work, and that's really kind of a focused area. So, for sure to find somebody that's that good of a match. And how do the advisors in a DMP program work? Do you have an advisor?
I don't have I'm assigned to a chairperson for my capstone, but as far as like the courses, they're automatically registered. So we like the whole cohort has an advisor. That makes sense, and they just schedule us and move us along. Right.
Yeah. Okay. And how did the advisor role fit for you with Rutgers?
You actually ask around and find a person who aligns with your research. So, and they agree to this mutual relationship. So it's not somebody who's assigned, but somebody who you seek out, and through classes and just different interactions, you get to know whose philosophy of nursing or nursing education research or just research in general will align with yours.
Yeah. Okay. And IU, that's the role of the advisor too, and we really actually not be admitted to the doctoral program until they have an advisor. So he has to commit to work with the student, and has to be at least a preliminary glimmer of kind of a match. So we want to happen even before the students get there, because then we can help them make the most of the courses as they go through, and help them try, if they aren't clear on what they want to do their research about, that help better clarity for it. So again, the advisor with some roles here, it sounds like, depending on the program. But really key in the doctoral program is that you have an idea of what that you're going to do research in more or less the general area in which you want to do it. So, but ask as many questions as you possibly can. All right, now, some of you probably are interested in getting the tips about how to, go through the program and survive. So here's some strategies that I came up with, and we'll call on LaToya and Teresa and anybody else who's survived at least 1 year. So even the goal of mine for a project, for your DNA project, the capstone project, or your research is really key. And I'll say, thinking back on my experience, I didn't have a clue. Nobody asked me either. So I probably wasn't as focused as I could have been. So the thing that was was it for me, and sounds like maybe it's not always, but the ability and the sequence of the courses, because if you miss one course one semester, is it going to be available the next semester, or do you have to wait another year, and are you behind? Some of these courses are prerequisites to the next one. So kind of check how it works, because many times these are a pretty tight sequence of courses, and you would want to be sure that you can do that. And these cohort models are really nice. I like what LaToya was talking about in that executive model, where the courses are specified, and everybody's kind of marching through a cohort. And I think schools are smart about that now, that understand the value of having the cohort. Every semester I was trying to plan my life, because I never knew what courses were going to be offered and when. So, kind of get a sense of that. So another strategy was put that, get as much as you can. And this is a good reason for going back to school now, because the credits, schools have limits on how often they're going to take the transfer credits. I think 7 years is probably outside, and some now are saying 5 years, because change. Another compelling reason actually to get enrolled as soon as you can. And then strategy for me was, I was doing do a paper. I tried to make sure it was something I could use with my students, or I could even get published. So I think 2 or 3 of my papers that I during my doctoral program ended up in being published papers. But sometimes we were developing little teaching strategies and things like that, and I could use those with my students. So anytime that you can money out of doing something you have to do for school, so much the better. And then, we've heard about these mentors, particularly, I think, for doctoral programs, somebody who can really help you, or I meant to say the PhD program. So, let's see, I've probably been talking enough here. Victoria, what's helping you get through?
So I think what's helping me is that staying organized, right? So that's so important. So I make a daily to-do list of things that I need to do, and then I have a monthly calendar of different assignments, different things I have to have turned in, and just organized. It's important to have a friend in the program, or two or three, just someone that could understand what you're going through and are going through the same thing that you are. So my cohort, we're very cohesive, and we always kind of support each other, so that helps going through the program. Other things, start my assignments early. So if I have a paper to do, try to do it as soon as possible, not wait until, the day before, 2 days before to complete it. So that helps also. One thing that my chair told me to do is to make sure that I write at least a minimum of 30 minutes a day, no matter what, whether it's a reference list, whether it's a page or a paragraph towards my capstone, just to have allotted quiet time that I could sit and write. And the more that I do that, the more I'll have at the end of a week or end of the month, instead of, sitting in to spend hours writing at one time. So helped me a lot. And the most important thing is to have a little downtime, if it's even an hour, or just to go to a movie, do something, because I tend to get very consumed in my schoolwork and teaching and everything. So it's good to have a little downtime for yourself. It's been helping me to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Teresa, what worked for you to get through the program?
I think LaToya, covered a lot of it, staying organized, having good time management skills. And for me, the dissertation phase was probably the hardest challenge, because I was working full time. And I think what has really sped me up in the last just couple of, I would say, years worth of time in a couple months is really just devoting a day to my dissertation. And for me, it was always Mondays, whether I was just working on simple things like APA format or reviewing articles, finding articles, working on, style and editing, writing, whatever it was, that was my day to do work. And I kind of pushed everything away, even though, you want to grade papers, you want to do other things. And especially over the summer, I would take a couple of extra days just to focus only on the dissertation. Definitely had great support from my colleagues and also just students within my cohort. And, I have a good friend who we would share our war stories and just, vent to each other about how we're going to survive this program. There were times where I just had to rest and not really look at any comments or feedback for, a couple of days just to process. And even if I did look at it, I wouldn't start writing for another couple of days just to give myself some reflection, because I kept on, thinking that I already said this 4 times before, but why are we still on this? So it's kind of, you're working with 4 other people, and you have different opinions and personalities that come out, and so sometimes it's just taking a step back and saying, I can do this. Also, knowing that my research project is not meant to change the world, but just to do something to add to the nursing literature. So I always had these global aspirations of a big research study, but I always had to narrow it down to something concrete. And Starbucks coffee also helped me, and just really trying to work late at night seemed to be the best time for me. I know some people said early morning for them, but when everyone was asleep, I would just take maybe an extra hour or two just to finish up something, or meet a deadline or something else. So working when no one else was around seemed to work, and I had a dedicated office space in my house, which when people knew I was in that dissertation phase, they knew not to bother me in my office. So it was kind of, we set up some ground rules in the house. So those are my strategies.
And also, I think one thing that helped me was, to be overwhelmed. That dissertation was always looming, even as you were going through the courses, and trying not to let that, be overwhelmed, but to break things down into small parts and to do a little bit at a time. I like that. I'm trying to think. Oh, one other thing that really helped me is at my school, as at most schools, there's a lot of time wasting activities. There's, sitting in the lunch room and everybody's typing about this, that, or the other, or meetings, activities that you wouldn't have to sign up for to be on. So if you're working full time, to try to focus on the most important things about your job and then stay out of the other stuff that's not contributing. And that's where I could get a lot of work done, even while I was, waiting for a student to come in, or while I was there with even a half hour. So I think you, Teresa and LaToya, about, even 50 minutes to pick out an article, or, get your Biblia stuff to date. So sometimes just 15 or 20 minutes to be focused, you can get a lot done. So I try not to let my job, overtake any time that I needed, because I want to be sure that I was focused. And then I did a 9 or 10-month appointment, so I could really crank up during the summer, and that was much easier, not to have to be working and to take more courses and compress them a little bit during the summer school. So that was a help to me. If that's a possibility, that's something to think about. Well, it's about, and I made some additions I'll ask, because it sounds like a couple of you are, in school here, and have, been through a year or at least a semester, or close to other strategies that we should put on the table here to help make it go faster, smoother. We can, the dialogue. You guys can be talking to each other, because I know how to get a hold of each other. So, talk a little bit more about resources here, and this takes some money and family support and so on. So here's some ideas and thoughts about where you can get resources, and the financial. We'll talk about that, but you guys have many opportunities here that not to take advantage of them. Then work support, and the variable, but if able to try to get some release time or some kind of a relief on your teaching schedule. And sometimes there's key points in your academic program, or maybe it's a good strategy to be asking for release time, particularly when you're in the middle of either your capstone project or your dissertation, when you're in the data collection phase and you need time to be doing that. Maybe you can negotiate with your department chair to have a little easier, or for sure ask that you don't teach new courses, because you need that work to be stable, not having to keep reinventing a lot of wheels. So I would work around that. Right now, our dean is really good about giving people a lower word, and she's also giving them some money, a little stipend. So try to get that to pull together. And then the other really resources, your family, that they understand that you have to devote some time to this, and that they can be there for you. And actually, I do an interview with all of our PhD students, and that's one question that we always ask. How are you going to manage? Do you have enough financial resources? Will you be able to juggle all this together? And is your family behind you? So, if you're answering no to some of these questions, it's going to be more of a struggle. But I am talking next about where some of these resources for you are. And I distributed to everybody, all the information that is available. But you are so fortunate to have this money, and you can have 2 pots of money. If you're teaching, you get the Education Advancement Award. So you can, let's see, I'm going to get this mixed up. Let's go back. Instead of, if you teach for 3 years in New Jersey, you'll get $30,000. So what a nice lot of money that is, and it sounds like most of you are teaching and will be eligible for that. And the second piece, this is what I just can't even anybody not taking advantage of, is if you enroll in a doctoral program, there's $20,000, close to that to be even for matriculating. So you have two fabulous sources of money, and this money can be used, as I understand, and Jen is online here, so if I misspeak, you can use this for however you want. So if for some reason you have a tuition reimbursement, and then you do not need to use the money to pay for your tuition. You can use it to work less or to box or do your search, whatever. So there's no excuses here in my mind why you guys wouldn't be going forward here. But then here, I would mention something else to you now that's on the table. There's loan funds that, again, Seton and Rutgers, or at least the UMDNJ part of Rutgers, I don't know how that's working for you, but we have this federal program called Nurse Faculty Loan Program because we need more faculty, and how that works is that you can get some loans, and you repay them only 8% of the money if you teach. And the same thing, I think, is true in New Jersey specifically, so this would apply to you guys. There's a redemption program there, too, so you can take out some loans, knowing that you're going to be working as a faculty member. They will be forgiven, more up to 70 or 80%, whatever the requirements are. So you can have the loan, you can have the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation money, then you can also look for scholarships or other kinds of things that might be available. So it would seem to me that you strategize well, and maybe even if you're doing more work than the teaching or teaching time, that you could cut back on some of the work and try to program a little faster. But anyway, everybody has at least $50,000 at hand if they, right. And it seems to me that would go ways. So I'll just ask: does anybody who's using this money want to share about it, or if you want to add any more on the topic, I'm happy to hear. But it just seems like such a wonderful resource for you all.
I just want to be clear, though, with the RWJ funding, it's up to 30 for either or. So you can go up to 30,000. So you can get teaching.
Okay.
But it's not 50 for the RWJ. It's 30 total.
Okay, I find that. So if you're not teaching, you can get the $20,000 for rolling, right?
Or you can get the 20 and then only get 10 for teaching, or you know what I'm saying? That's how it works. It's up to 30.
Okay. But still, nice money. And
exactly. Like you said, whatever you need to use it for.
Yes. To use for tuition or for living expenses.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you begin with a loan fund, it seems to me that good 80% of the cost of going to school would be covered. To me, that would be just. Marlon, do you have a comment or a question?
Dan, I had a question regarding the education advancement. Don't you have to demonstrate a completion of your first semester in your educational program?
Correct. You have to be enrolled in a program, and yes, you have to be matriculated, and you have to show completion. Yes, but just you have to. Yes, we need a copy of your transcript. It's all in that same list. But you put it towards the or working less, right? That we don't, require paperwork for. But just I want to make sure you're enrolled in a program.
Okay.
Anybody else have a comment or a question here? just some really nice opportunities here, and it's not a reason for going on for a doctoral degree, that's for sure. And I don't know if you guys are pursuing more opportunities. Lots of schools have the scholarships that maybe you don't even know exist. Some of them are specific to somebody who say lives in New Jersey or who's studying something particular, nursing or whatever. I was sure that I've looked at every single ability, and I haven't heard people talk so much about tuition reimbursement. Apparently, it's not as popular as it once was, but it's certainly worth asking for. Teresa will ask you guys to talk a little bit about what sources you have and how did you go about finding them. So we'll start with Latoya.
The only resource that I've used for going to school is just the money from Robert Wood Johnson. So that, and I pay the rest out of pocket. I supplement it out of pocket.
Okay. So did you look into the faculty loan fund, or did you look into scholarships or anything?
I did to scholarships. There are some scholarships through UMDMJ that you can get, and I've applied to, but I didn't get it this semester, and so I've just been using that. And
okay.
I was trying to really avoid the loans.
Yes.
So I didn't go that route. I'd take a clinical group and to make extra money, which would make my workload more, but not alone.
Yeah, and there is some certain risks to having the loan and so on. So I certainly appreciate that, but it sounds like you're managing to pull together. And Teresa, what about you?
I looked into all types of scholarships and grants, and most of them were directly from Rutgers. I had some merit awards and some private grant funding through the Kirby Foundation, but one of the most valuable resources was the teaching assistant position I got, which allowed me to partially cover tuition and then gave me a stipend, and then it gave me some teaching experience as well. I also was on a research grant that would pay me just as a research assistant, which helped a little bit towards tuition. And specifically for my dissertation, I've sort of difficult to find education or nursing education research funds, but Sigma Theta Tau and my local chapter and also the organization as a whole has really good a good amount for supporting doctoral dissertations in nursing education, as does the NLN. I saw that Dr. Marianne Rizzolo actually has her own now simulation research grant set up for people who are pursuing doctoral dissertations in that area. So just kind of applying all over and hoping, I land a few has been really helpful. Also just getting a one-course release. I know you mentioned this earlier, Diane, but while I was collecting data, that freed up so much time. I'm on a scholarship track as it is, so I normally teach 3 classes. So I taught 2, and just having that extra time of not grading and not, being on campus really helped me to, I collected data at a site that wasn't my home institution where I teach, so that even just travel time and working with the instructors there and my research assistants, it really helped free up some time for me. So,
yeah, okay. And, we didn't emphasize enough about the family resources, and that I'll say that's probably the one thing that helped me a whole lot. That I had, family support, and because there wasn't fun, and then certainly that tuition, being 50% off on the tuition was a big help as well. So, gather your resources where you can, and I'll say too that I had, there was about 6 or 8 of us from the School of Nursing that were working on our doctoral degrees in School of Ed because, we didn't have PhD nursing time, and it were really helpful. And sometimes we had people who were, a couple of years ahead of us and had been through the course, and they can tell us about the faculty and it was a network, not so much the cohort, but we sure had a strong network of trying to help each other. So draw in as many resources as you can. Also, any other, we're here about 10 minutes to clean this up, so anything that anybody wants to go back and ask about or add to the discussion or give us any pointers or tips that will help us, sure, here's the time to share. Participants, anything to your mind that we discussed or that you've always wanted to know about doctoral education and never had a chance to ask?
Dr. Billings, this is Shelby Pitts. I've just been listening, and I've been having the computer trouble.
Oh, okay. Were you able to come to most of the session, hear it?
Yeah, I've been listening. I haven't been able to log on.
Okay.
On the computer.
I understand. Did you have a handout?
Yes, I received the handout. Jennifer forwarded to me. I guess my only question, personally, I'm actually starting to research all the tracks and really trying to decide where which I'll go with. I'm really in between the EDD versus the PhD. And the program that I was specifically looking at, because long-term in academia, I would be in a leadership position within administration. And just from what people have been telling me, they feel that the EDD and the PhD kind of opens more doors and has a little bit more weight. So looking at the one specifically Columbia, because Columbia University and the Teachers College has that nurse executive track. So they have a master's program. They do have a PhD. I think it's more nursing research focused, and they have the EDD track as well. So those I was looking at just from a standpoint of what the program offers. But I did want to ask, because I know one asked the question about, do you know how heavily the GREs are weighed when you apply to the PhD and the EDD program? Or the admission?
My sense, sometimes the schools specify that. They will tell you, and that's certainly a question to ask, when you're interviewing them. I mean, you can be interviewing the schools and asking these kinds of questions. My sense of how it was and how we did it at IU is we had quite a bit of data. We had, a going average. We had those GREs that we did require, and we did the interview with the student. And sometimes we did it on phone, but often the students, came. But one thing that weighed for us, and this is the PhD program, that they had a sense of what they wanted to do, that they, were getting ready to that they were prepared when they came in. So I would guess that it's no school, it's make or break. And so this is just tradition-wide. We still require those, but the one area that they probably are looking at most is the math scores that are in the analytical reasoning, because PhD program there's stats and probably to some extent in the DMP too, but there's more methods and it requires some math standings. So that helps. But I would ask. I was curious about the fact that people think that the EDD gives you better preparation for working in academia. It's always been the case, but I think it's coming back. And one other thing that I can give you a heads up about is the National League for Nursing is coming out with a position paper on nursing doctoral programs for nurse educators. And one that they are suggesting is, that the parts of schools of education are that's a thing, because some of those education courses, really give you a good background for higher ed. And if you're interested in a leadership position that's looking at higher ed, I would say do that. But then I think Rutgers has school education, and I believe Seton does too. So I don't know if there's anything that you could program you could put together where you're doing some nursing things and some School of Ed things, and put a little program together that suits exactly your needs. I don't know, it would be worth doing. And I would say keep your eyes and ears open. They're out Columbia, because that teachers college, I think they're look what they should be doing for nurse educators.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
About Kane, what people are thinking about that, but I just keep out what's going on down there.
At Kane, you said? Kane University?
Yes.
Okay.
Trace down there, do you remember her?
Mm-hmm.
PhD scholar. You might network with her and see what she knows.
Okay.
I'm not advocating, and I'm just saying that I thought it was the direction that they were going, and I don't know what the quality of the program is going to be, or anything about it, but it's around a little, I would say. But sounds good, and I really like the notion of there's a gap here preparing our teachers and our educators for to be even high and higher in schools of nursing. So there is a need there. We need people for those roles for sure. Okay, comments, because we're just about 3 minutes into saying goodbye. Other questions? Well, if not, I'm going to thank profusely. Here's some more information, and I put this 48 up there because she's at Seton, or was when she wrote this, and there's a lot of information. There's a list of programs in New Jersey. That's from the NJNI site, so you might enjoy that. My coming up December 6th, book in the workplace, and that's going to be really good. And we're going to have a face-to-face on February 7th. But mainly, I want to thank a whole bunch of Latoya and Teresa, because they, really organized with me, planned the session, went to rehearsal. They've, just done a yeoman's job of volunteering here to share stories with you. So I hope you guys will just continue to network with each other. So any last thoughts or comments? Jen, anything else that you want to add about the topic?
I thank everyone for participating, and just get a sentiment. Was it helpful offering it in the evening, and which we continue to offer at this time frame?
And we'll take topics too. We really want to be sure that we're serving the needs of the alums. So we're glad to see so many of you participate, and you're always welcome to come to any of our meetings, our webinar, the face-to-face. We had a good turnout at the CE reviews. It was fun to rest and see so many familiar faces. And you're busy, but we want to make all this available to you. I think we did a great job, and again, thanks to our experts, our DP and PhD experts, Teresa and Latoya. So again, soon. Take care. Keep in touch with us. We want to know where you've decided to go and how things are going for you. All the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so
thank you, Diane.
Matt and Nat, we appreciate your support from WebEx.